Hello friends, and in this video we will go through how Spark handles null. This is a very interesting topic because you will see many people asking these questions in the interviews as well, how Spark handles null. This video will cover everything that is needed. That covers most of the things that maybe asked in the interviews and will be handy when you are writing PySpark code or Spark SQL code. First of all, what is null? Null, in a sense, it's something which is unknown, right? So it's that we don't know what is there. Like this denotes a missing data, or this denotes a data which has not been captured. And Spark handles it in for different scenarios. It has a different use cases. So let's start with how it handles comparison operators. So in Spark, we have comparison operators, right? When we write SQL, we can say whether some column is greater than some certain values. So that becomes comparison greater than, equal to, less than or less than equal to. These are most common comparison operators which are there in Spark. And how Spark handles this is basically it says that the results of the operators is unknown or null when any of the operand is null. So let's say you have a table where you are saying select star from the table and then say where and column name and then you say greater than equal to a value. Let's say that value is coming from, let's say, from other table. It's some different column of the same table. Uh, so let's say Yes, or let's say we can have an example where let's say a table is there which is storing addresses of so let's say secondary and tertiary addresses, and we want to see which people have their address at secondary and tertiary addresses same. But not all people will have secondary and tertiary assets. Majority of them will have only one primary address. The secondary and tertiary will not be there. So in that case, what will happen if the secondary is null uh, and the tertiary is there, still it will return unknown. When secondary is there but the tertiary is null, then again it will return a null when we do to try to compare that option, because null is basically unknown. So if you see how it happens is left operand and right operand. Let's say if the left operand contains a null, and right operand, it doesn't matter what it contains. The moment it sees a null in any of the side, it will say null for all those things. Only this last column is for equality check, which is we call it null safe comparator, null safe equality operator, uh, which is denoted by these two open and close angle brackets, and in between that there is an equal to. So this basically says this will return true only when both sides of the operand is null. So basically, if both left side and the right side are null, then the equality operator will return a true, else it will always return false. And other operators, the moment they see a null value, they will return a null, so unknown. So this is very important to consider. So when you are doing a join, and let's say the join column has nulls, then you have to be aware that those columns will not come up, will show up in your joins, because it will not be able to compare that. And also, even if you have, let's say, if you say mm, table A, join table B on table A dot column is equal to table B dot certain column, if you don't provide this non equality safe one, it will still return you, it will not return you the rows which have null. So if you want to include and make null equal to null, then you will have to use equality operator. So this is for the comparison ones. And we have logical operators which are said and or not. This also follows a similar structure in sense, similar concept, that if any of the operands present have null, so based on whether it is an or condition or an and condition, it will return that value. For example, let's say the reason why it happens is, let's say if we say uh, true or unknown, right? So in or, what happens, the moment it sees something coming as true, it will not evaluate it further, right? It knows that, okay, I have already got a true, so there is no point of going and comparing other things. Uh, uh, but in case of and, let's say we say x is equal to y, and let's say y is equal to z, or let's say z is equal to something else. So in those cases, when we have an and, it has to compare both conditions, and in that case it will have to know whether whatever I am checking is correct or not, because if it's false, then it has to return a false. But the moment it sees a null, because null is not known, then it will return a false, right? So that's how it's working. So say, let's say left operand is true, right operand is null, and we are doing an or. So because we see that in the left side we already have an or, which is a true, left operand which is already having a true, so the or operator will return a true, and will not return a true because it does not know, because it had seen something is null. Something is null, which means something is unknown. So that's why it is returning an unknown. Uh, Other way around, left operand is false, right operand is null. See, uh, in this case, it or will not know anything because it doesn't know. The moment it sees a false, it will go and compare the right part. Right part, when it compares, it sees an unknown. So a false and an unknown does not make the or operator to be making a decision, because it does not know, what is the left part. That's why it returns null. But in case of an and, it will return a false, because what happens in and, the moment we see an false statement, it will not calculate further, right? So that's why the moment it sees a false, it will say unknown, sorry, the return the result. In case of null with an true, again it will return true, because or will work and will not work. Null with a false, and will return a false, or will not return anything. And in case both are null, like right side is null, not right, left side is also null, in that case there will be null in both the scenarios. And there is an on not operator which says not, if we treat null as an unknown, and if we say not unknown is also something which is not known, right? That's why it is, means you are trying to say negating something which is not known. So if you don't know what you have to negate, how you will negate it, right? Let's say, if you think in terms of, let's say, negative of something, negative becomes positive, but negative of something not known itself, how you will know? If it is a positive, it's a negative. If it is a positive, then the output is negative. If it is negative, then the output is positive. Same way, if the part is not null, then we don't know what is there, and hence it will return a null. So this is very interesting. This also comes up in very interview. The people ask it in interviews, that what will be the value of output. Then Spark has a lot of expressions. Expressions are nothing but column, when we say, let's say, to date or concat or those kinds of expressions. So how they handle. So there are two categories of expressions. One are called null intolerant, and that means they can't handle any null. So example, concat. So let's say you are saying concat string plus, then it comes a null, not known. Spark can't do that. Let's say you are trying to convert to date. You are expecting a string that you will convert it to a date format, but the string doesn't. It's a null. So those functions are not null intolerant. Sorry, those are not tolerant to nulls. The moment they see a null, they will return a null value. But there are certain functions which are explicitly designed for null toleration. For example, coalesce. So coalesce is something which says that, okay, whatever the first non-null value will come, it will take that. So in that case, yes, the coalesce function expression is null tolerant, and it will return a right value, whatever you are expecting. And the reason behind is that the basic understanding of coalesce is what it checks, it tries to return a not null value, right? So to find out not null, it has to compare the null, and it does with the is null. Backend, in the backend, it might be doing with the is null, or it might be doing with the equality operator. So null equal to null returns true, and in that case, and specifically this is designed to be working with null. So those things will return. Then also in also had something which is that works fine with null's value present in there. We will discuss it in further why in works. The result of these expression depends on the expression itself. So whatever is the value that coming out of the expression, then those things can work. We have aggregate functions. So aggregate functions, when I say, so there are two parts to this. Let's say when we are doing group by, so there are grouping keys. For example, let's say we are saying group by certain column, and that columns has null values. So there the null values will be treated as one category, right? So uh, let's say we have dates and we are uh, doing group by based on the month. So we will have 12 unique months that is coming. And let's say if we have some null dates where we are not able to do grouping on the date part. So that null category will still be there. Like it will not be discarded. But when it comes to the aggregate functions which are getting applied, for example, we are saying group by and then we are saying do sum. So in that case, sum of 1 plus 2 plus 3 and null will always be 1 plus 2 plus 3 or 1 plus 3 if we have two columns. So here if you see in this example we had the columns had one null and three null, and we are doing this aggregation on this column itself. So the column with nulls does ignore the null values which are present there. So if we would have done maximum, it would have ignored the nulls. If we have done sum, it is ignores that. But when we do a count, uh, so if we say count star, it will basically go ahead and return two unique values. Sorry, three unique values in that. So it will say four in total in range. But when we are saying count on the column, then its times will return then two non-null values, and it will say two. So this is for the group by and aggregate functions, and also as I mentioning that this is null will having be a grouping column. Order by clause. So how Spark handles order by? So when we say when we sort something based on certain columns, by default Spark will place null values in the beginning and then everything else. But if we want the nulls to be present at the last or the end, we will have to say order by and then say last. Then we have union and intersect or except, which is set operations. As I mentioned, so how Spark handles union and intersect is basically they treat this as an equal to operator. So kind of they are doing an equality check rather than doing sorry, they treat that as an, so you can think that set operations are based on that what you call not uh, this one null safe operator check. So that way they do handle it. So if you do union, so two nulls, if they are present, they will be removed, and intersect also will combine them. So that's where these how these set operations are handled. Exist and not exist. So exist and not exist are not affected by. So whatever you are expecting, like one exists into, or sorry, but when you say select start from table where, and then you have a subquery where it's saying exist, and then you are checking whether any row is exist or not. So whatever is the value of that particular query, that will work as it is. Things become interesting when we have in and not in. So as I was mentioning earlier that we will discuss in, so this is the part where it's getting interesting. So what we can think in as of. So for example, when someone says column 1 in 1, 2, 3, this means what? What we are doing is we are saying C1 is equal to 1 or C1 equal to 2 or C1 is equal to 3. As I mentioned, or, right? So this is an or. So if it has a null value inside, so still it will work, right? So that's what it says. True returned when non-null values in the question is found in the list. So for example, we have some columns and we are saying the values are present in this ax, y, and if it is present, so let's say that the value column which were there in the table had a, so it will work fine, it will return true. False when written when the non-null values is not found in the list, right? So in that case, we have in here x, y, z. So here what happened? Not in, right? We are checking. Let's say the column only had one, as we mentioned. So value only had one. Sorry, a. So in this case, value in a, it will check a is equal to x. So it doesn't. It says no. I am pretty sure it is not. So a equal to y, no. A equal to z, no. So all the three or conditions were satisfied, and it says we didn't find. So it returns an empty rows. Now when we have a null, so now we are trying to compare. We have the value, the column value had only one value called a. So where value in a is equal to x, yes, sorry, no. So it goes a is equal to y, no. Now it comes to a is equal to null. As I mentioned, a is equal to null returns unknown, right? So it doesn't know. So we have false, false, and unknown. So false, false, unknown is what? Unknown. That's why it is not able to return anything. So it will return an empty row. Now, not in. So not in, we can think of again, we can just simply say an and operation in here. So basically this becomes unknown. So once we do an and, so the moment it will see any null value, it will return a null, right? So irrespective of whether the value was present or not present, it will return something as false, right? Because not in had to check that, okay, all the values do not match. So let's say if we have this case, the same example that was above. So we have table A has one ABC and table B has AB and null. So if we say not in query, surveyor item not in select item from table 2. Table 2 has A, B and null. So the let's say it is comparing with the first column, first row. So A, so here it says A not in, A, B and null. So A will say A not in, A equal to A, it says true. A equal to B, it says false. A is equal to unknown. So now what is the condition for not in to be satisfied? That okay, none of the elements should have that value, right? But there is a value which is unknown. So Spark does not, Spark cannot identify that okay, which value it is, right? It might be there, so that's why it can't return it as something. So the moment you see a null in not in, it will not work. And that's why it is generally a good practice not to use not in, whether it's better to use an exist clause or not exist clause or a join to find out. So those, yes, this was all about how Spark handles nulls, and this pretty much covers everything. So next time when you are faced with anything, anyone asks you how Spark handles null, if you have gone through this video or if you have gone through this blog, you will be able to answer that in a confident fashion. So yeah, that's it. Bye bye.